Hello and welcome to The View from IMF. I am joined by Ms. Indrawati, the Finance Minister of Indonesia. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
So obviously you were appointed this year. This new appointment also followed a revision of the 2016 budget, and that also involved a revision downwards of both the government expenditures and revenues. Some analysts say that in previous months and years there was almost an optimistic view of the state's finances. What would you say to that in light also of the revision of the budget?
Well, I took the job 2 months ago, and that means that the Indonesian fiscal year is the same calendar year, meaning that we've already finished almost 6 months. So we're entering the August, which is the 8th month, so 7 months, so the 8th month of the year. And we see all the revenue collection in the past 3 years in Indonesian budget is always under achieved what is already targeted in the budget law. So I took the liberty to look at what went wrong, what was behind all the maybe miscalculation, and of course we can easily identify in the sense that the commodity price, the very weak export or global trade affecting directly Indonesia as the commodity producer. So you see that the mining sector has been negative growth, export and import negative growth. So that kind of thing that definitely will affect the revenue side coming from mining, commodities, and the trade activity. We look at all the risk and then we recalculate and what is the more realistic revenue that we are going to be collect given the only 5 months left. So we discuss and I look at all the underlying data and they come with a 218 trillion rupiah, which is I think that is the correction which is quite steep. Considering that we are only have 5 months left. So what is going to be then the scenario to soft land this kind of revenue short? I think we look at the spending side and we see that there is a ability to still trimming down the spending without sacrificing the priority of building infrastructure, poverty reduction, and addressing the issue of inequality in Indonesia.
And where would the cuts in public spending be in terms of sectors? Where would the change happen?
Well, basically it's not in the sector but activities because it is across ministerial, but it will then affect those spending which is considered not really aligned well with the objective or the priority. For example, like the trip or the convention or meeting spending, which we think that can be still create a more efficiency room without sacrificing. Or if it is related to some of the infrastructure capital spending, we are deciding to lengthen the spending. So we are not really cutting, but we are stretching. So if original project design is going to finish by December, we can actually lengthen into additional 6 months. So it will affect our budget in 2017, but it will not affect the momentum of growth that we try to maintain in this moment.
So to people who are potentially worried, for example, in terms of infrastructure spending, if that might be affected, it wouldn't necessarily be cuts, but maybe a lengthening or looking at
that's what we discuss with all what you call it the sectoral, in this case the public world, transportation, housing, all those things which agriculture, especially on infrastructure related to irrigation. We said that they are going to be able to lengthen their project execution, so it's not going to be affected by saying that I'm going to cut and that's why the project will be abandoned.
And in terms of boosting revenues, obviously there's been the news of this tax amnesty program, which obviously will have potentially beneficial effects. A lot of analysts argue, however, that to have a more sustainable and long-term boost of government revenues, there needs to be a wider reform in terms of taxes in Indonesia, especially to broaden the tax base. What are you looking to do in that front?
Well, the tax amnesty aiming to, of course, creating an opportunity for all the Indonesian taxpayer who in the past is not complying fully the tax. Some of them maybe have paying tax but not fully disclosed. Others maybe even totally not paying tax. So this tax amnesty law providing the opportunity as a right for the taxpayer to participate by disclosing more accurately their income, their asset, then they are going to pay according to the timeline. In this case, the first 3 months, the rate is 2%. The second 3 months is going to be 3%. And the last 3 months, this is 9 months program, is going to be 5%. Of course, with that, the implication not only just that we are aiming for capital inflow of those people who can repatriate, because if you decide not to repatriate, the rate that you have to pay is doubling than if you are going to repatriate. So there is an intention of repatriating more asset or income. But most importantly is actually for Indonesia to have a much more accurate data, because people, taxpayers, feel that this is the opportunity for me to comply with such a very low fine. And you are going to be freed from the administrative fine or consequence, as well as the criminal charge for the tax only. And that's why we are encourage all taxpayers to participate in this, in order for them to be able to then complying the tax. We are aiming for then the new information which is more reflecting the accurate both income potential or wealth or asset of both individual and corporation. And with that, it will then reflect the much more solid, robust, accurate new database for us.
And that will help in terms of, on a more long-term basis,
definitely
increase the tax base. So that would be your end objective, really, that the final objective is that.
Definitely, because if you look at Indonesia with the tax ratio which is below 12%, and if you look at it within the first 3 months, with around 380,000 people participating, it's generating 7.4 billion fine, or around almost 300 trillion asset disclosure. I think that is really showing that a lot is actually hiding or not being disclosed truly by our taxpayer. I think that's then require the most important part on the government. That is, if they are going to disclose and willing to participate, can we make sure that the tax department and our tax official is going to be able to collect tax in a professional way? It's not harassing, it's not committing to the corruption and so on. So the issue about the tax reform is now becoming very, very, very important for us to do. And that's exactly now the priority. So we are planning to change the law. I'm going to do many of the reform within the Director General of Taxation, whether this is related to the structure, governance, the conduct, and our
it has to be a multifaceted approach, because it involves different
It's
parts
very important, because the bottom line is that we want not only just collecting information, but building trust. This is the trust building between taxpayer and the government in order for us to create a new page in the life of the Indonesian people.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck with everything, Minister.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks.